Let's get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The JAYREELZ podcast.
But the one thing I want to talk about with Luka Doncic is this. There aren't many people built like him in the NBA. He is a guy that is a stone cold assassin, and you could probably count on one hand. He's definitely built in the mold of Larry Bird, of Michael Jordan, of Kobe Bryant, that closer that you need to have in games where you know you could either put the game away or even put the series away. As we've seen in years past, whether it was in the bubble, down in Orlando in 2020 in that Game 4, I believe it was the opening round series against the Clippers, where he drained that deep three to tie the series against the Clips, although they eventually lost the series. But you got a glimpse of what Luka Doncic was like on a big stage. And then fast forward to last year, Game 2 in the Western Conference Finals, where in front of Rudy Gobert, the dagger three that he had, and then yelling in the direction of Gobert. And I understand there's no love lost between the two. And ironically, they're facing up against one another in this series right now in the first round. But you saw how he is just able to not only take over games offensively, we know how brilliant he is when it comes to handling the ball, dishing the ball, taking big shots, not afraid of the big moment. That we understand. But the one thing that we've also seen that may have gone under the radar and maybe has been brought to light here, especially what we saw there Saturday night. We saw in an NBA final how Jaylen Brown and even to a certain extent, Jason Tatum have been able to corral him, throw him off his game a little bit. Maybe the home court had an advantage with that Celtic crowd looking for a title for the first time since the 2008 season. So maybe there was a factor there where Luka was thrown off his game psychologically, but Jaylen Brown certainly gave him fits, and the Celtic defense did whatever it took to not have him dominate in that finals, as we saw that the Celtics won in 5. And then remember that Game 3 last year, where he fouled out of the game, he literally fell apart, was looking to the refs, going to the bench to Jason Kidd, his coach, to say, hey, let's get a review here, where he knew that that was a foul. And certainly the Celtics threw him way off his game. A player who, as we said, dominates the ball as well as will be able to show up in a big moment. And on top of that, has that killer mentality. But because of that Celtics series, and even the comments that Brian Windhorst made, if you recall, the way he acted like just a petulant child that was looking like a spoiled baby there on the court when he got that 6th foul, when he looked to the bench, and as we have seen time after time after time, is always complaining, always bitching and moaning to the referees, to the extent where it's even kind of hard to root for him, despite the fact that he's just a brilliant offensive player. But then now, let's fast forward. So after that finals, and then of course everything that transpired throughout the course of the year, the trade, etc., but that's a whole other set of encyclopedias. But now let's get to Game 1. And with the T-Wolves manhandling them physically, and even though Luka got his points, but Anthony Edwards, he's another guy that is built with that assassin's DNA. A guy that I understand he hasn't won anything, and you can say the same for Luka Doncic, despite the fact that he did make a finals appearance. But for Anthony Edwards, he could go mano-a-mano with Luka. He's a guy that certainly will not cower or back away from the spotlight or a big moment. And even though the game was out of hand, where he made that three in front of Luka, I believe it was, about 8 minutes to go, and the T-Wolves, I believe, were up by, off the top of my head, what was it, maybe 15, 16 points? But just knowing that he was able to land that three and point at him with his fingers, as if to say, I got you, my man, and if you're going to think you're going to try to get at me, this is going to be a long series. Now, I don't know what was said. I don't know what was bandied about between the two megastars, but I wonder a little bit about the psyche of Luka Doncic in that regard. That's not to say he's going to back away. That's not to say that he's just going to bow down to Anthony Edwards or the T-Wolves, because I'm sure he's going to have a moment where he's going to rise to the occasion and he's going to throw the proverbial middle fingers at the T-Wolves or any opponent that's in his way. But based on last year in the finals, and based on maybe even just that Game 1, where if the T-Wolves are going to try to do whatever it takes to wear down Luka Doncic, maybe they saw some of the tape from the finals last year, and not only that, but the experience of playing against Luka in a Western Conference final, maybe that also had something to do with what happened there Saturday night. Now, just like the coach of the T-Wolves, Chris Finch, said, it's only one game. We can't get crazy. We can't look at it from a standpoint that the series is over. But maybe, just maybe, there's a psychological advantage for the T-Wolves going up against Luka Doncic. Now, there's plenty of basketball that needs to be played, obviously starting there tomorrow night, but I will say this. You do have to take into question, just a little bit, that Luka Doncic could be fragile. Could be. That may be with a giant capital C, but at the same time, his recent track record has shown us that could be the case.